welcome to the Medical Ancillary Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, and joined by my pharmacist co-host, Vivian Hudson. Hi, Vivian. I'm going to be calling on your expertise today. That's why I teed it up and introduced you as the pharmacist co-host, as you are a resident pharmacist. I had a question for you, Viv. We've been obviously very active with the new compound pharmacy program, which is just taken off like gangbusters. And we've been doing really great with it. It's nice to see a resurgence in the compound pharmacy industry for once. And I thought it would be interesting to hear your perspective, first of all, on, as a pharmacist, I know you owned pharmacies back in Australia. Are compounded medications, is that something that's prevalent there?
It was something that was kind of starting to take off a bit. Wasn't as big as perhaps it is in the US, but nothing in Australia ever is. And certainly I think the key aspects of having compounding is, from a pharmacist's perspective, obviously it was an ability to exercise another part of your expertise, but what it also enabled physicians and pharmacists to do was really personalize the medicine. So with each compound, you were basically tailoring that medication to the doctor's request for the patient. So what that enabled them to do was to be, and what I've seen in the cream formulations here, is to be a lot more specific, perhaps meld multiple ingredients together and place them into a topical version. So the beauty of the topical version is that it does circumvent some of the systemic side effects that you might get from taking medication by an oral route. And what happens typically when we ingest something orally, it goes straight to the liver, and the liver gets rid of a large portion of the drug. So it doesn't kind of get a chance, so it goes through what we call that first pass metabolism. So when you apply it to the skin, we kind of circumvent that first port of call to the liver, so it has a better chance of working, and also enables, like in a pain perspective, to be able to apply something topically rather than going the oral route with various medications, because of, we know, side effects, adverse effects, and potential addictions that can occur from that. So definitely it has.
I was just reading
this.
I just read a statistic that 1 in 5 patients who is put on opioid therapy will become a lifelong addict. 1 out of 5.
That's incredible.
That is, if I put, I mean, it's seriously like putting one bullet in a chamber and spinning the chamber and holding it up to the patient's head. That's what you're doing when you put patients on that therapy. And sometimes you have patients in an incredible amount of pain, and you don't really have a choice. I understand that, but if there's an alternative available, I don't see why a physician wouldn't consider the alternative.
Absolutely. So I know that you've been working in this space. So for your perspective, what's the benefits to the physician to be able to utilize this instead? Because I know their thinking is, well, they don't get paid. Compounding pharmacy, it doesn't pay. So what's your knowledge around that?
Well, there's a couple things, Viv. So first off, whenever you're doing, I've mentioned this in previous podcasts, but this is something I've learned from people who are real sales pros. A great sales presentation is a good story. If you can convey a good story to somebody, they can remember that story, they can follow you along. And by the time you get to the end of that story, the answer is always, of course I get to use that program. So, and it's very easy to do that in the compound pharmacy arena, because the experience that physicians have had with compound medications, from a clinical standpoint, they may have had a positive experiences in the past with it, but the problem is dealing with insurance companies. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, we've been contracted with different compound pharmacies. If we get 2 out of 10 scripts filled, we're doing pretty good. So what ends up happening is the doctor writes scripts, they'll try it out for a couple months. It may work, it may not work, but most of the time it's not working in terms of the insurance covering it. So then you have 80% of the patients coming back to the physician saying, well, the pharmacy's saying my insurance doesn't cover it, and it's $250 or whatever it costs for that cream. It's $250 cash price. I don't have the money. Can you start me on? Can you write something different that my insurance does cover? Well, you just created a homework assignment for the doctor, and you just slowed down their whole production. And as we've talked about, time is money, especially in a physician practice. So every little bit that you can cut out and make their lives easier, the better. Well, what's different about this program is the method in which the insurance companies are being billed. So just to take you back a little bit, what's happened in the past is the insurance companies got wise. They were spending too much money on compounds. Of course, there was some abuse in that sector. But so the company that we are working through it's basically a pharmacy system. And the owner of this pharmacy owns several pharmacies. They're all independent of one another. He has minority ownership in several pharmacies out of state. And so what we have is basically a lot of little experiments going on. And they studied, why do these deals go pear-shaped? Why do insurance companies pay for medication sometimes but not other times? And there were certain things that were uncovered. Number one, if you are a mom and pop pharmacy and you got a huge pain clinic down the street, and that pain clinic, you're able to secure that account as a compound pharmacy, and they're writing 400 scripts a month. Well, the insurance, if you're predominantly with Caremark or Express Scripts, whoever the PBMs are, and they see that all of a sudden the costs are ballooning out of control for what they're reimbursing to that pharmacy, they can just cut that pharmacy off arbitrarily. They don't really have to have a reason. They could just say, well, we're not covering that lidocaine cream. Maybe that's what the pain clinics are predominantly writing. We're just not covering that anymore, and they just flat deny it. There's also a few games they can play on the back end. They can switch it around and say, well, that lidocaine cream has to have 1% antihistamine in it now. That's the only way we cover it. And that changes the NDC number. Well, if the pharmacy puts it in with the wrong NDC number, that's a denial. If you have there's units that are associated with each medication. So you take that same lidocaine cream, you might bill it out at 240 units for CVS Caremark, but at Express Scripts, they only cover 210 units. They also have the number of refills that they'll cover. So you might have one covers 8 refills, the next one only covers 4. Well, next week that could change, and all of a sudden they're covering 270 units, but they dropped it down to 4 refills. There's all sorts of games that go on the insurance side, and it's really just a game. It's a method for them to not have to pay for these things. But there is a way to get these things covered. So with this pharmacy system, what they're doing is essentially aggregating data from pharmacies across the country. And they have all these little experiments going on. So I tried at my mom and pop pharmacy, I tried to run it through CVS Caremark, and all of a sudden I'm getting denials on that lidocaine. Well, maybe I'm able to see that one of the other pharmacies as a part of the network, they tried putting it through at 210 units versus 240, and it got through. Well, now they can, on appeal, put it back through at the 210 units, the appropriate units. That's how they handle it in the back end. On the front end, what happens is they're controlling, because it's a network of pharmacies, they control the specimens, boy, I'm used to talking loud, the scripts that are coming in. So you might have the mom and pop pharmacy down the street that may be filling it, but it could be another pharmacy that they're ordering it from, and the other pharmacy might be billing it. So they control the billing that way, so that everything is dispersed through the entire system, so you don't have one single pharmacy that's overloaded with prescriptions. And so that is the basic premise. And if you guys are new to this, or you were in the compound space and you've gotten out of the compound space, I understand the skepticism. It's the same skepticism we had. I've been in the compound world in the past. I've been out of it for years. It really has not been a viable market. But the proof is in the pudding. We tried this out. First report, 57 scripts in, 57 paid. So, and since then, the numbers have just ballooned up. And what we're seeing on our end, and with a very large experiment here, I mean, we are thousands of scripts per month now. I would say that the adjudication rate is north of 99%, and that's without hyperbole. That is the real adjudication rate. So the system works. So in order to get the doctor to write these prescriptions, he has he or she has to understand that these are going to be paid first and foremost. And that has really been the big hesitation. That's what we found. And Viv, you also mentioned about not making money on these. There are revenue models that are available to physicians that do tie pharmacy into it. Now, that is not the way I would sell this necessarily. Only about a third of the clinics that we've signed up are planning to participate in any sort of revenue model. And there are different revenue models available, be it K1 income, paid through an LLC or an S Corp, or there's MSOs available in a lot of states. But first and foremost, these prescriptions have to get filled. It's pointless to even talk about an investment model or anything else. You know, a lot of these physicians they're just looking to write compounds, and they're looking for a pharmacy that can actually fill these and bill insurance so that they can have confidence that they can keep writing them. That's really been the biggest hurdle. So in order to sell your physicians on this is actually, what's cool about this is not only does it make incredible amounts of money, it's also one of the easiest sales because everybody's given up on it. Everybody, from sales reps to doctors, you name it. And if you come back in and you just ask the physician, this kind of gets back to spin selling, Viv. The situation, what is your experience been with compounds in the past? What is your opinion of compound medications? Most of the physicians are going to tell you, well, they see some applications for it. But the problem is, I don't write it because it's too much of a hassle. It never gets covered by the patient's insurance company. Okay, so then you get into the problem. What is the problem with that? Well, you have, as you mentioned, you have these issues that can occur, addiction and other physical problems that can occur as a result of metabolizing a medication. And then, so what are the implications of that? You get into the implication. So what is the implication of putting your patients on opioid therapy versus giving them a compounded medication? Well, some of them are going to become addicted, and they're going to become lifelong addicts. So then you get to the end, the need payoff. So doctor, what you're telling me is you would like to write compound medications if they were covered by insurance, but that has been your biggest hang up. Yes. Okay, now you tell them the story. And that's when you get into the story I just told. Doc, this has been the problem in the past, and this is the game insurance companies play. This is what we're doing that's different. And you walk them down the path, and then at that point, you don't have to ask for some big commitment or anything. And doc, you don't have to take my word for it. You know, most doctors we talk to, they want to date before they marry. We totally understand that. Send us 10 prescriptions. If what I'm telling you is not true, you'll never see me again. But I'm telling you, when I come back here in a week and a half, 2 weeks, I'm going to show you the adjudications on this. And you're going to see that all these medications are going to be covered. At least 9 out of 10 of those are going to be covered. Then at that point, you might feel more comfortable about writing compounds. That's the sale. That's the pitch right there. And people are out there doing it, and they're making a killing. When I say a killing, I'm talking 6 figures a month to some people. It's incredible the amount of money that this program can generate.
Well, it's compounding pharmacy in more than one way because the money compounds each month too, right?
Yeah, it's a double entendre, of course, yes.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great explanation. And for anybody that's going out in the field that wants to talk intelligently to doctors about it, I mean, I think you've given them the perfect formula there, Mike. So go out and get some doctors involved. Yes,
get us involved too. If you guys have if you need any help, give us a call. We can help you pull these doctors in. Like I said, you will not be sorry. This works in most of the country, and we're growing into additional states. It seems like every day there's a new state that's being added. And if you are in a state that's not currently being covered, contact us about that too, because all it takes is some serious interest from a state. And if we have enough interest there, we can get that state rolling as well. So,
great. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Dave.